Very good evening. You're watching the Free Press Journal. I'm Afrida Rahman Ali. With me is Bhavdeep Kang, who's a senior journalist and columnist who has written about the issue of special intensive revision of rules in Bihar, a matter that has resonated so strongly in Parliament for the fourth day in a row. There's been pandemonium in both the houses and several adjournments, with the opposition members raising this issue very strongly against the government's decision to hold the SIR. Bhavdeep has written a piece on the Free Press Journal arguing that one may question the process, but one cannot really question or, at least doubt the fact that this process is necessary. So, welcome to Free Press Journal, Bhavdeep. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
My pleasure to have you. Let me then begin by, quoting what you're saying, that the manner in which SIR is being conducted may be debated, but it can be no one's case that it is unnecessary. But if I understand it correctly, it's the manner which encapsulates everything. If the manner is wrong, the process is wrong, how can you hope to get things right? You will only get wrong and faulty outcomes if you don't, follow the process in the correct manner.
Right. So at the outset, let's make it clear that the principle is important, right? No one, absolutely no one, can deny that a person who is not eligible to vote cannot be part of the electoral process. There can be no argument there, right?
Sure.
Point number two, it is the responsibility of the Election Commission of India to ensure the sanctity of the electoral process. It must ensure that only eligible voters cast their vote.
Sure.
Point number three, there is no doubting the fact that we do have a fairly significant instance of illegal migrants into our country. I doubt that anyone can contest that. Therefore, a rigorous scrutiny of electoral rolls is important. I'm hoping that the ECI extends it to the rest of the country, because we really must review the electoral rolls very, very rigorously, right? Because we cannot afford to compromise the electoral process, because that's the fundamental to our democracy. As I've mentioned in my article, it's not just a question of voters. It's possible even for politicians to enter the electoral process without their citizenship being firmly established, right? As we saw in a case not too long ago. So now we come to the question of process. The ECI has laid out the process fairly clearly, right? I don't think there's much confusion regarding that. Yes, certainly it is a problem largely of migrant workers who may be working in some other part of the state or in some other state. For them to source documents or to present evidence or witnesses to support their case might be a problem. And the officials have to take note of that. They have to accommodate these people, give them extra time, even if there's a little financial support involved. I think even that would be legitimate.
Yes. A couple of things, Bhavdeep, if I may, are being strongly raised, a couple of issues. One, that if you are revising these electoral rules, there were as many as 5 elections held in Bihar prior to this based on those electoral rules. So are you going to then doubt the veracity of that mandate? Because, how are you going to then stand by the fact that you've already had so many elections and governments voted to power based on the previous electoral rules? So the fact is that, by opening this Pandora's box now, you are also going to be having to answer for why you didn't do it before. So let me put it this way: why now? Why did you wake up to this now? And the issue of citizenship is actually not the Election Commission's domain. So to question a person's citizenship and to demand papers at this juncture, isn't this exceeding its brief on the part of the Election Commission of India?
Let me ask you a question. Can a
Hmm.
non-citizen vote in any
Hmm.
election in India?
So then let's say this, that this is a citizenship exercise. This is an exercise to determine citizenship, not just, it's not just about, it's a NRC with a different name. But the government is not willing to accept that. That is where the problem is, that this is a NRC no less.
Well, it would have been useful if we
Hmm.
already had an NRC. Then this
Hmm.
process would
Hmm.
have been a lot easier and a lot less intensive. I mean, personally, I see no reason why we should not have an NRC.
Hmm.
The government is entitled to know that within its borders, how many citizens and non citizens are living side by side, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, yes, this is an ongoing process. It's not as if electoral rolls are not updated from time to time. People pass away, right? People are born, people turn 18. It is essential to update roles from time to time, but it cannot be done, absolutely blindly, right? You also have to assess the eligibility of people to be able to vote, because apart
Yes.
from birth and descent, there are a number of criteria. You have to
Mhm.
be of sound mind, for one thing, right? That's specifically mentioned.
Mhm.
So, this scrutiny is important. It is essential. I mean, people who've been
Yes.
convicted in certain kinds of criminal cases, which may have happened post facto, they were
Hmm.
already on the electoral rolls and have thereafter been convicted, would then be taken off the electoral roll. All these are specified.
Yeah, but you are also listing out, Bhavdeep, the challenges therein. You know, once
Yes,
if you are to undertake this Herculean task, did you
yes,
go with blinkers on? Because you're saying, and I'm quoting from your article, that the SIR process is complicated by the high degree of mobility among residents of Bihar,
that's right.
because the state exports workers across the country. Many of them, for instance, have settled in Punjab. For migrant workers, sourcing documents can be problematic as they are far from their place of origin. So, what are we trying to do here when you know that this is something, it's an insurmountable sort of a task? Then why are you even taking it up? Is it just muscle flexing? Is it then, amounts to trying to electorally benefit by raising this kind of narratives? It's just about the rhetoric. It's not intent that one wants to push through or go through, really.
This task is not insurmountable. Yes, there's a high degree of inconvenience involved to a number of people,
Hmm.
but it's not insurmountable. To begin with, everyone thought that Aadhaar itself was insurmountable. I mean, it was the
Hmm.
largest exercise of its kind. People thought
Yeah.
vaccination during COVID was unsurmountable, but all of
Hmm.
it happened because digital technology was leveraged, right?
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
census itself is an incredible exercise, the largest of its kind in the world. But we do manage to have a census every 10 years, or at least we would if it hadn't been interrupted by COVID. But we are going to conduct a census, right? So all these are huge exercises, but they are accomplished. I mean, certainly for migrant workers, there will be a certain degree of inconvenience,
Hmm.
but many things are inconvenient about our lives.
This has taken tremendous proportions, Bhavdeep. If you've seen the sessions in Parliament, this matter has actually now meant that there is no legislative business in Parliament, because the opposition would just not listen or would just not have this go through, to the extent that the parties who are part of the India Alliance, the RJD chief among them, have said we will boycott elections. We are not going to let this happen or have our voters in this 11th hour go through this process of running from pillar to post to gather documents and prove their very identity. You see, it's something which really hurts your sense of pride as a citizen as well. That abhi aap apna citizenship pehle prove karo. If I were to be said that now, you can't vote unless you all over again prove your citizenship to me, somewhere I would be hurt in my own country. I'm made to do this. I'm just asking you at a very personal level. Do you agree?
Well, if you look at it through an emotional or an ideological lens, I understand. I
Hmm.
understand why this upsets
Yeah,
people.
it's an emotive issue. Yeah.
Process, right? It's
Hmm.
like receiving a notice from the income tax department, right? You might be
Hmm.
outraged. I have paid my taxes. I am
Hmm.
an honest tax-paying citizen, and yet I've
Hmm.
been asked for a clarification from the income tax department. Okay, this is
Yeah.
something akin to that. Of course, citizenship is an emotional issue, and
Yeah.
there are a number of documents involved. I understand that. Okay, it's
Mm-hmm.
inconvenient, but it's a process, like many other processes that we go through, right? All of
Mm-hmm.
us were inconvenienced when we had to go get our Aadhars. Then every time we needed to update our Aadhars, we had to again run to a center, wait for
Hmm.
hours in line, and then go through that whole process. It's inconvenient. But at the end of the day, what has Aadhaar done for us, right?
Hmm.
We now
Hmm.
have UPI, right?
Hmm.
Millions of people now have JAM, okay, Jandhan Aadhaar Mobile. Hasn't that made our lives, 100x more convenient, right?
But in this case, even Aadhaar will not do. Just Aadhaar or PAN or your driving license is not going to work.
From
This is
from the
this is
very
actually, yeah.
from the
Hmm.
very beginning, from day one, it was very clear that Aadhaar was not a citizenship document. It merely established your residence in India, much like PAN, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
The passport is the nearest thing that we have currently to a citizenship document in the absence of an NRC. But at the end of the day, it's a travel document, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you need multiple
Hmm.
documents to
Yeah.
establish your citizenship beyond doubt.
Reasonable doubt. Yeah. No, you
Size.
said it yourself in the article that look what happened when you went about trying to get an NRC done in Assam. You got
Yes.
19 lakh people who could not. You are saying they could not prove
Mm.
their citizenship, but technically, what
Precisely.
turned out was that 19 lakh migrants, and it was not as if they were all Muslims. Bulk of them were not minority community, they were from the majority community. That seemed inconvenient. You just put it aside, even though, Bhavdeep, I was covering this issue very closely. It was a Supreme Court monitored process. There was a fine IS officer, let me tell you, who was supervising this process in Assam. And
Mm.
in fact, the way that gentleman was moved out from his position of handling the NRC, it was, one anybody would feel that, well, the outcome did not suit you, did not. That's Assam I'm talking about. You did not get your desired result, and therefore that NRC is now not valid. Now thousands of crores of rupees gone down the drain. You're going to
Mm.
do that all over again. I somehow, having seen that process, feel it's such a futile exercise. And you, even though you say it's not insurmountable, you have admitted in your article that in Assam this failed miserably. It didn't work out for the government.
Absolutely. The fact that it didn't work out once doesn't mean that it cannot be done. I've also pointed
Hmm.
out that there were software glitches, right?
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
process was not as transparent as it should have been. The Supreme Court itself has said that you have to ensure absolute transparency of processes, and
Hmm.
for the love
Hmm.
of God, get your software right. Okay, no glitches. You cannot afford any glitches, right? If
Hmm.
you can
Hmm.
do COVID, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
If you can do Aadhaar, if you can do DBT, then you can damn well get this right. Okay,
Hmm.
you've
Hmm.
created UPI, okay, which is the most fantastic digital payments architecture in the world. I mean,
Yeah.
how is NRC a challenge? Okay, if you
Hmm.
need to, then private sector, get the private sector involved, right?
Hmm.
They can get it done on a volunteer basis. Get NASCOM involved. Okay, get iSprit involved, but get your software right. So it can be done, right, with far more efficiently. But the basic principle is what the Supreme Court said. It has to be
Hmm.
transparent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to give a certain leeway. You have to give people time. You cannot proceed with the attitude that, hey, you're guilty, right?
Hmm.
You have to
Yeah.
proceed with the assumption, okay, that these are actually citizens, right? Until it is proved to you that they are not. Okay, so the
Yeah.
approach should be positive. Okay, the approach cannot be negative. So you
Yeah. The
need
onus
to,
is on the citizen, though, to prove that. So that
the
is
only
why the entire outrage and outcry over this. Hmm.
all the more reason why the ECI needs
Hmm.
to make sure that the officials are trained to approach the citizen in a positive way.
Hmm.
It can be done, right?
Yeah. I get your point. I
Now,
mean,
the problem
yeah.
Yeah. Now,
Sure. Carry on.
proceeding to what you had mentioned earlier, why there's
Hmm.
this big fuss over what at the end of the day is just a process,
Hmm.
um, is uh, is the fact that it's been made ideological. And why has it
Hmm.
been made
Hmm.
ideological? Because um, illegal migrants, the bulk of illegal migrants, tend to be from the minority community, right?
Hmm.
In the Northeast, you have a lot of Zokukis coming in from Burma, but in the rest of India, it's by and large people from the minority community because they're
Not
coming
so
in.
much in Bihar, Bhavdeep, because Bihar, I think, shares borders with Nepal. So I'm not
Well,
too sure whether that logic applies as
that's
equally to
true.
Bihar.
But it's
Assam
true.
and Manipur, like you said, I agree.
Right.
Yeah. Because
Assam,
they share borders
Assam
with
is
Bangladesh.
largely
Yeah.
exactly, and the same is true of West Bengal as well. And of
Yes.
course, you have communities in Delhi, Bombay, can't be helped.
Hmm.
The fact is that they exist. The numbers we are not certain about, but they do exist. I think pretty much every citizen of Delhi encountered has encountered people from time to time who happen to be cross-border
Yeah.
migrants, and nobody's really that fussed about it. The problem arises when you become part of a government process, right?
Hmm.
You also have, even in Uttarakhand, for instance, we now have communities of Rohingya migrants, right? So this is a problem. I understand that this is a problem, and this raises the risk of ECI officials profiling minorities, right? Which is
So
absolutely
there is a level of mistrust, is what you're saying, and that is something perhaps we have to set aside, and perhaps we have to
so that
restore
trust
the faith in our institutions,
yes,
like
yes, that
ECI.
trust deficit must be bridged, even if
Yeah.
it means you have to go 10 extra miles. You do it,
Hmm. Right.
right?
But the larger point that you made is that uh, this is necessary for the simple reason that you cannot have non-citizens voting. And if the government is willing to undertake an entire exercise to ensure that non-citizens don't vote, you feel it's a fair thing to do, and it is in their it's very much well within their rights to undertake a process like that. It is their duty, rather, to ensure that only citizens vote so that we have a fair mandate. In an ideal world, it all sounds very well, but let's just see how the process is undertaken. Because, as I said, I feel personally that if it's a fair, transparent process, as you also pointed out, the Supreme Court has said it must be, then fair enough, let's go with this. But if there is indeed a malified intent, then obviously this would be hugely unfair to the people of Bihar and to the people of this country at large. I thank you for joining me this evening, Bhavdeep. My pleasure
Most
to have you
welcome.
on my show. Thank
Bye.
you so much.